Test. Let me see. Test one, two. Test one, two. Microphone. If we don't test one, two. All right. Test one, two. Test one, two. The signal still looks low, but I see some signal. Test one, two. Wow. It'd be good than when I started. Test one, two. It goes low. I've been trying to go live for over an hour now. Y'all probably gave up, which I don't doubt. I don't see no lights moving now. Test one, two. Test one, two. Test one, two. Test one, two, two. Test one, two. Test one, two. This is the most jacked up audio I've ever seen in my life. Okay. Yeah, this thing is real low. I don't have any volume. No volume whatsoever. And I don't know why it's doing that. Test one, two, 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 two. I've been trying to go live, but the audio's messed up. And I'm not, it's not me, and I know it ain't the gear, it's YouTube. King J says good, sounds good now. How loud is it? Because I can't, it looks low. I can't, I don't know. It just looks low for volume. Is it good? Is it good? Because says with the YouTube volume all the way up and the monitors halfway. See, you shouldn't have to turn your YouTube volume all the way up. You shouldn't have to do that. It's YouTube. They like, okay, I'll tell you what's going on. Usually, whenever I make my videos or whatever, this is a USB mixer, and you can go and change the so y'all might, because I want to do this live stream. That's why I've been trying for over an hour to try to get this live stream going. But you can go into your sound settings and tell it what sound resources you want. I change it to mixer, and then of course you can look at the mixer icon in a the meter will be hot like it's supposed to. The meter is barely moving, and it's not making. And it only does it when I try to go live. So I don't know if YouTube is purposely doing that or what in the world. I haven't had this problem with the live streams before. Okay, but anyhow, thanks, Born Shamir, peace, and King Jams. I think a lot of other people that was expecting me to come on at 8 o'clock, and of course it's well past 8 o'clock. So I was going to talk mixing and gear and music and stuff like I always talk, but I'm frustrated. So because I know it's not the gear, it's YouTube making changes. I don't know if they're trying to default, because it's defaulted to my webcam's mic, and I don't want to use that mic. I want to use this mic, like you're supposed to be able to do. But anyhow, I don't know what I want to talk about because the volume looks low. Okay, Tree Producer, don't let it get you off track. I'm frustrated because I don't like when things don't go right, and it frustrates me because I can't tell. King Jam says it sounds good, but I can't tell if it sounds good for everybody else because everyone makes their adjustments differently. Some people listen through their phone. It ain't running through this console, but it is going through a mixer. But even if I ran through the console, you still would have to run through an interface to get it into the computer. Because this mixer doesn't have it's analog. It doesn't have a interface. So anyhow, if it sounds fine, I was going to ask everyone that if it sounds fine, I'm just going to. That's right. He said, just like engineering, a recording session, problems do pop up, but you work through it. He says it sounds straight, so. Oh, it says it is tolerable. Okay. Well, okay. Then I'll continue on. If everyone says the sound is tolerable, then I'll push through it. Because here on the meters here, they're hot. But on the meters here, it's like, I don't know what's going on. So what I was going to talk about is, I think some people had let me get back on track what I wanted to talk about. Because I've had people that watch some of the other videos and they'll ask some questions. And so, okay. MMA says, I'm 64-year-old with bad hearing, but it sounds good to me. Okay. If you got bad hearing, you can hear it, then okay. Okay. I'm going to push over. Okay. Someone, I did a tutorial through Reason Studio, but I'm always working in Cakewalk as well. I also work in Studio One. Those are the main two DAWs I work in the most, but I work in all the DAWs because I like to know all the DAWs. I don't like calling them DAWs. I like calling them virtual recording studios, but they're still called DAWs, right? So someone had asked me, and I was going to actually do a video on this, on my approach to Logic Pro. But what I was going to say is, no matter the DAW, I have the exact same approach. And I'm always looking for specific things in this DAW. One, can I arm the track? Can I get signal to the track? I always definitely want to check the routing to make sure that my DAW sees my interface. If it sees my interface, I can get signal to the tracks. Other than that, I already know how to get the signal hot enough to record. That's every DAW. Other than that, I just look for key functions. The same functions that I'm looking for key components for the tools I want to use. So I'm also doing that like as if I work on a console. I think I used to hear when people used to, or I would listen to some people's stuff. I think the only thing that and I would see this a lot. I think the problem that I would see is people would start, once they record their tracks and they edit the tracks, they'll start adding all their plugins and everything on the tracks in that tracking window. And I'm like, every DAW has a mixing window for a reason. Some DAWs, I call them VRS, so bear with me if I start saying VRS. The mixing window, and I get it. Sometimes a lot of people that never got a chance to work in a recording studio a mixing console would be foreign. Like me, mixing consoles were foreign until about 90. Well, I'll take that back. I'm lying. I knew about mixing consoles because I would see them even playing in the band. I just didn't know how to work them. All I knew is you see a bunch of channels and you have a bunch of knobs. And I knew each channel, you put something on that channel. I did know that. I just didn't know how signal routed through those mixers until I got a chance to work in a recording studio and learned how to signal routes in a mixer. So because of that, when I started recording in DAWs and started using the DAW's mixer, then I learned that I would say, oh, wait a minute, my mixer has the exact same stuff. You just have to, a lot of times it don't have bus or auxiliaries. You have to literally go in there and add it. And then you route to that. And then I would notice when I would do that, everything that I would have done on a real console, it would start to sound the same in the DAW. I'm like, oh, that does make a difference when you put your effects on an auxiliary channel and listen to it, even if you're listening to it through your DAW. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm gonna tell you, I thought about, so what's affecting when you run sound through a mixer? And that's definitely, I thought for the longest, and I'm moving this thing of peanuts. I thought when you plugged it in, it just went straight down, in this row. But I found out it doesn't do that. It actually goes from the mic preamp to the fader. But it will go through the EQ if you engage it, then to the fader or anything else in the channel. So I used to think, okay, auxiliary, but it's actually not. It's going to the fader. Then it's weird. It's like it's going to the preamp, then to the EQ, then to the fader, then it goes back up, But technically what it's doing is the signal is splitting, if that makes sense. Okay. Shall we say, just a thought. Could the hot signal be that the mic is at line level and not mic? I get that with my SM57 with a quarter-inch patch says like SP404, and then I plug it when it's in line level and it peaks. The mic, if you got it on line, especially if you got a mic, you want to turn the mixer to mic level. You don't want it to be line level, not on microphones. Because one, at least with a line level on an instrument like a keyboard have their own built-in amplifiers to control the volume for your line level. So you can make your keyboard adjustment. Microphones do not have amplifier adjustments. So that's why when you put it to mic, the input signals were already lower. And then you're just going to boost it with the preamp in the mixer. So switch it to mix, switch it to mic, and then run that SM57. The only difference between the SM57 versus like this condenser mic is this condenser mic requires 48 volt power, phantom power. An SM57 is a dynamic mic. It doesn't require 48 volt power. You do not want to apply 48 volt power to a dynamic mic. So, but you definitely don't want to run line signal mics. You want to run mic, switch it to mic, and then use the preamp to boost the signal. Okay, so going back to what I was saying about the signal flow. So really, technically, it's going from the preamp. So it's doing this in your DAW too. When you look at you always look at your mixer and your DAW, and you adjust the gain structure, right? Then from there, you can have some DAWs give you EQ to be able to, it gives you the default EQ, or maybe a default dynamics, like Cubase does that. Cakewalk does that. And some other DAWs does that, like Harrison Mixbus. Other DAWs do not have EQs on their mixers. They don't have dynamics on their mixers. They don't even have auxiliaries or buses. They'll just have the preamp, a lot of times just the fader. And of course, they'll have controls on, functions like mute, solo, pan, monitoring, arm the track, record the track. So they'll have those functions. And some mixers anticipate that you're going to probably use one of the defaults. Some DAWs have a defaulted equalizer in it. As an example, it's the default. It's the equalizer that came with the DAW. So they assume that you're going to use that. And sometimes it's embedded, is built in the mixer. You just got to go and look for the functions to engage it on the mixer, or sometimes you literally have to go and actually use that DAW's plug-in default EQ. So every DAW is different, but and so what it does is, if you have to default insert stuff as an insert on that channel, the first thing that you put in is the first thing it puts it in that order, that how it's good, the signal's going to route through it. So let's say you have a DAW, you do not have a built-in EQ or dynamics on your mixer, but you do have insert, and you do have like send. Send is like your auxiliary sends. We call it send or auxes, or even send the bus channels. It's just how the name is, like tomato. And sometimes people that are new to the DAW world these terminology can be formed because a person that's been doing mixing knows, if you say send or auxiliary, you're talking about the same thing. Or if you say bus or group, a group channel, because some consoles say group, some consoles say bus. Pro level engineers know you're talking about the same thing, but a beginner may not know that. So the terminology get lost. It's kind of like echo, send, echo, return. When really you're talking about reverb sends or reverb returns. It's the same thing. So you'll see like if you ever get a chance to be around like an old Neve or SSL console, something like that from the 80s or whatever, they didn't call it reverb. They called it echo. They're talking about the same thing. They didn't call it auxiliary or cues. They didn't, like a cue mix. Setting up it's really an auxiliary. It's the same thing. Or send to a cue, send to an auxiliary, send to whatever the case. So it's saying the same thing. So it's splitting and allows you, from the fader, allows you to split how many ways out. If you have 4 auxiliaries, you can split from the fader to 4 outs, to 4 auxiliary channels. That's what it's saying. Or I can assign to additional buses. A lot of times on those consoles, you have to send to an auxiliary channel, or you have to assign it to a bus channel. So that's why you'll see, like on this console, these are the bus assignments and then the auxiliary assignments. but you're literally sending the signal from the same source to multiple sources on the console. That's so when I got to understand, okay, so I was like, well, I was making the mistake. This is the mistakes I was making. I was making the mistakes like I would put my reverbs on channels, and I would do delays on the same signal channel, and I was like, why does my stuff sound so echoey and delays and muddy? Come to find out, engineers, what they would do is they would send a signal to an additional channel and blend the two. Not only does that fatten the channel, but it gives it this stereo width and space. And I noticed that's stuff I started learning. I started learning this in the 90s. Like I said, I was I was real green when it came to music and engineering. Let me read I got comments coming in. Okay. All right. So Bobby Forefront says, what up? What up? Oh, thanks for tuning in. I was having audio difficulties. YouTube kept changing my defaults. It kept I guess it wanted to use my webcam. It kept defaulting. So I kept starting the stream. But a lot of people said the sound, everyone can hear fine. So as long as everyone can hear fine, then I'm driving on. So let me see. King just says, should I do mic to console, then compressor, then to DAW, or mic to console, then compressor, then okay, you mean your signal chain. Okay. If you're going to use your microphones if you're going to use your console's microphone preamp built on the console, there's an insert point on the console. You can actually insert. Most consoles are already going to have an EQ on it. Some consoles have the ability to turn the EQ on and off. Some consoles don't. Basically, the cheaper the mixers, the less options you have. Like this console, I can turn the EQ on and off. It's also got an insert on it. So you're going to insert, if you want to use a compressor, which is highly recommended in vocal chains for microphones, to control dynamics and peaks. Insert a compressor on that channel, so that way it'll route through that compressor, then it'll route into the compressor, then the output will route back into the console, so you'll hear that compressor working on that channel. That's what you really want to do. Now, if you're not going to use the console's microphone preamp, you're not going to use anything, you're just going to use just the volume level that's coming to the console, just so you can fade or control the volume, and maybe even use the EQ if you want to use EQ or whatever. Then you can run your microphone preamp, an external microphone preamp from an external source, and then you can signal chain it by running a compressor from the microphone preamp into the compressor, and then from the compressor into the console. That would be the second alternative, if that makes sense. So, okay, let me go to the next question. More on the top. This is a good build. Always learning about Soundcraft, signal flow, and even understanding PLF. And let me on PFL stands for pre-fader listen. And some of y'all, maybe people may or may not understand, why do I want to use pre-fader listen? The main reason why you want to use PLF, if I come over here and hit the PLF, this is the PLF button right here. If I hit it, I can hear what's coming into that channel at the preamp section before it even gets to the EQ or even to the fader. I can hear the source in that, and I want to make sure that's a good source. That source can have noise in it, ground noise, all kinds of buzzes, hums. I need to fix that before I continue. So I'm gonna go to pre-fader listen to that. Yeah, that's a good source. I don't have any issues with that. I can take out a pre-fader listen. That's pre-LF is totally different than soloing. Soloing is when you're isolating the channel as you're in the mixing phase or whatever, or you just want to listen to what's going on with that channel. Once you're happy with the source coming into the channel, you can solo it to listen to that channel by itself, just to make sure am all the things I'm doing is it making sense? Is the compressor sounding right in it? Is the EQ, things like that. So that's why you install it. But pre-fader listen is just to listen to it. And then, of course, there's AFL. You'll see AFL, after fader listen. And a lot of times you want to use AFL to say, okay, after fader listen, say, okay, what after I did everything I did, EQ, compressors, inserts, everything like that on that channel, was I happy with my decision? Let me listen to the AFL to that to make sure, you know, especially on a bus channel, whatever. Okay, I'm happy with that source before I move on. So, okay, so now let me go to some more. I got more questions coming in. L. Summer says, I have the Behringer SL75. Do you think the Shure SM57 is so much better that it's worth getting the original? What's good about, and you know, the SM57, the reason why so many engineers like that microphone, it's not a high-end microphone to really capture thing above 14K or anything really dynamic below 100 hertz. But it's a good, it has a really exceptional 500 to 8K range. And the capsule itself on that SM57, I got some in the drawer over there. The capsule on that is really good for taking high SPLs, sound pressure levels, right? SPLs. So they're not as sensitive like condenser mics or ribbon mics. Ribbon mics are really sensitive to explosives. In other words, those, you know, that's why I got this pop filter. Ribbon mics are real sensitive. You can break a ribbon mic, but SM mics can really take the source, a hard source, like a drummer hitting on a snare, or tom, or the kick drum, or on a really aggressive sounding guitar cabinet, really good, really loud, explosive bass cabinet. So an SM57 is it's like the Swiss Army knife of microphones, and is really good for instruments. The SM58, which is the sister mic, you got SM58. You'll see this microphone on countless, especially live. The SM58 is a really good mic because, one, it's a good, nice, dynamic closed range mic. You don't have to worry about capturing. A live engineer can contain feedback faster because it's not overly sensitive. It's not like where you got a condenser mic and you're trying to set the cardio pattern. And let's say I don't want any sound behind me on the side, so I'm going to set the cardio pattern but this condenser mic is still picking up room ambience. Like with this mic, if an ambulance come flying, you know, you will hear it outside my window. A dynamic mic won't pick that ambulance siren up because the range, it's like the range. You would have to really run some serious gain through an SM58 to really get it to feedback. And feedback is also another misleading thing, because a lot of inexperienced engineers think that feedback is a volume problem. And feedback is not a volume problem. It's a frequency problem. This is why we want to use RTAs, real-time analyzers, to see what's going on with you want to see what's going on with certain frequencies to contain it. Like if I come over here, I can run pink noise or whatever, and I can use a spectrum analyzer to analyze in problems with frequencies within the room. What makes rooms like this so great is I don't have completely flat walls. These walls go this way, this wall this way, this wall is going this way. The angles is breaking up. This is why they use diffusers in studios to break up reflections. You know, there's also a thing called room noise, where you start getting these frequency buildups in the room. You're trying to contain that as well. This is why. So I'll get into acoustics later, but so if that makes sense, that's why I will go back to your original question of, is the Behringer SL75 better? I think the SM usually when they're close and they're that close, you got to remember Behringer is trying to emulate secrets of these schematics. So what these companies do, they'll get the schematics to like an SM57 or other companies, and they'll try to recreate it but rename it. But there are also some what they call proprietary trademark secrets to those designs, if that makes sense. But the micro sound close. Do I think it will make a huge difference in the mix? Probably not. But SM57s are so affordable. Even on the used market, you probably find an SM57 cheap on eBay for $50. If you can pick up an SM57 over the Behringer, I would. Not send a Behringer. I know that was a long answer to that response, but I always say if you can get an original cheap, go with the original, because everybody else is emulating the original, if that makes sense. Next, it says Mixcraft also has everything there as well. It has compressor, EQs, and panning. It does. It's if you're talking about Mixcraft 9 or Mixcraft 10, I have that. Same thing with Logic Pro. All these DAWs provide, and it's like with Cakewalk and Cubase, they also provide a lot of tools. So that's why I think they're all good. With either one of those DAWs and a good ADDA converter, you pick one. That's why I never told anyone to be one DAW. You'll see a lot of YouTube videos where some people say Pro Tools is the best, and I'll like, why? Well, I can do this. Well, so can that. Cubase can do that, or Logic, I can do that. So give me another reason. Well, can do this, and then this and this. Oh well, so can Logic Pro, so can Cakewalk, so can Studio One. Well, can do this. Yeah, okay. Well, let me ask you about Pro Tools. And I'm not knocking Pro Tools. Pro's a good DAW. Okay. In Studio One, for as an example, I got all these, for example, loops and samples that came with the DAW. And I got all these instruments like Present and Impact and whatever case. Does Studio One have that? I mean, does Pro Tools have that? You know what their answer is going to be? No. Because Pro Tools is not really designed to be a beat maker, audio, creator, content creator, or it's not to be an audio production, music creation platform. It's designed to really be a recording and mixing platform. That's really what Pro Tools is designed to be. You got FL Studio, Ableton Live, Reason Studio. Those are not only DAWs, they're also creation DAWs where you can create in the DAW within all the tools, including virtual instruments. Pro Tools started implementing some stuff like that, but they are late to the game. So let me go to some more. Man Network says, "Hey Mark, made it. I'm glad you made it. I was having problems with this audio earlier. I'm glad you made it. Man, he said 2-bus, stereo bus, 2-track, and all those terms will have you thinking it's all different. It's true. It's kind of like group or bus. Well, it's even if you say bus or group, if you have a group of people and they need a ride, they're all gonna, and let's say they're all gonna ride on the bus. It's still a group of people riding in the bus. So you say, it's like you're still saying a group of people. They're all riding in the bus. So you're just saying the group of people, or you're saying the bus? How'd they get there? It was a group of people. How'd they get there on the bus? You're saying the same thing. I know that's kind of a weird way to say that, but okay. Right. And it says mine, you can turn it off. Turn it off to and inserts in on all 32 channels. That is why I punted the Model 16 so-called analog USB. Okay. Mine too, you can turn it off. Yeah, that's like I'll give you an example. If you on an SSL console, right? Let's say on this console, you can't turn the inserts on and off. So if I plug something in my insert on my patch bay and I don't want it to affect the channel, I have to go to that unit and have to hit the bypass. It still will run through the signal, which still run through the channel, but at least the unit won't be affecting the channel. On a pro level recording console like an SSL or an EVR, they have a button on there that you can insert the channel there, regardless if the signal is working or the signal, the unit, the outboard gear is working or not. You can hit insert, turn it on and off. I wish I had that feature so that I can turn it on, listen to it, turn it off, turn it on. It's kind of like when you have a plug-in, and you have a plug-in inserted on your let's say you have a Fairchild plug-in on your channel. You can hit the bypass on that plug-in and turn it off on that channel, and the compressor on that plug-in stop. You won't hear it anymore. You can't do that on a real console like this. You got to go to, but you can on an EV or an SSL, or a Focusrite, or those large type of consoles like that. I wish they still had that feature. So let me get back to the next question. RRJJ, welcome RRJJ. He's asking the question, why do mix engineers always say it's better to subtract frequencies when getting your desired sound on EQ rather than add a frequency? Okay. EQ, and I always say EQ is one of the most abused thing because most people don't understand it. Okay. I'm going to try to paint this picture. Let's say you're working on your channel and you want to EQ it. And let's say you're not using a plugin that looks like a vintage piece of gear. Let's say you're going to do this plug like a Fab Filter or the TDR Nova, which is a free one, right? And you open it up, and every time you open up, first thing you'll see, a lot of times they'll default these dots, and they'll be on this one line. It'll be a zero line, right? It'll be this zero line, and they'll have like a dot here, dot here, dot here, dot here to represent that. That's where those 4 frequency bands are defaulted to when you open up the DAW. They'll default to like 12K, maybe 2500, 500, and maybe 100, right? The thing is, when you boosting your cutting, because you have to equalize, means you're equalizing the frequency to not compete with other frequencies. So sometimes you have to boost certain frequencies to make it sound better. Sometimes you have to subtract frequencies to make it sound better. A lot of times people associate if I cut frequencies, it's going to make it sound worse. No, what you're doing with those frequencies, you're cleaning up the tone. And so sometimes it could be too much 500, or it could be too much 800, even at the default of Unity. So a lot of times they'll give you 2 things. They'll allow you to boost, which means you're going to see that line and you're going to go above that line to boost it or below it. But you'll also see a band that starts to look like this. It'll look like this. And it's like, so it's kind of like sometimes always boosting or we call it boosting or attenuating or cutting. Attenuating or cutting is the same term. Attenuating. Sometimes even cutting 500 you are not affecting what you need to do. Sometimes you need to sweep to a different frequency. So I need to move it to 600 and boost or cut. Or sometimes I have to make that band pass, because you'll see the band pass move across as you do like that. And it's still affecting some of those frequencies at that boost level. Like, for example, the line to be here, the line and the you could boost to 3 dBs, and you'll notice the line here where this frequency is being boosted at 2 dBs. This one's boosting at 1 dB until it hits the line on both of that band. That's why I call it a band pass. Sometimes we need to move that bandwidth. So you'll see at the point to how you know which band, how many bands of frequency that you're affecting, boost or attenuate that frequency, and then look at from the point that rise, and look at the point of those frequencies that those are at. And as you sweep back and forth, look at the frequencies that are sweeping with it, not just the particular frequency that you're focused on. And you'll start to hear when you do that, let's say it's a keyboard or synth or sample or vocal, whatever, as you'll sweep, you'll start to hear the sound. You'll start to hear the sound start to the frequencies of those will start to shift, if that makes sense. And sometimes you can shift it into a good, nice sound. I got this. I always keep this. This came out of, I keep this taped, even though I know I got this pretty much memorized, but this came out of my Alesis 3630 compressor in the back of the manual. And what it says here, do I got my light? Where my light at? Okay, anyhow, it'll say something like this. This is the reason why you want to boost or cut. For example, the human voice, right? What you want to cut and why you want to cut that. For example, you want to cut around 7K. Why do I want to cut that? To get rid of similants. Similants that high, the S sounds, right? Where do you want to boost then? Why do I want to boost Mount 8K? Gives it a bigger sound, right? It gives you a little bit more presence in the high end. So 7K is not a good frequency for vocals to boost, right? Okay, here's another example of 2K. Why you want to cut 2K, right? These are 4 bands. I'm gonna talk about these 4 particular bands. So you want to cut around 2K on vocals. Why do you want to cut 2K? To get rid of that shrill, that mid-range shrilling sound in your vocals. Okay. Where do I want to boost on that second band, on that mid-high? Around 3K or above. Why? To give it some more clarity. Around 3K. So 2K is not a good frequency to boost. Okay, if that makes sense. 3K or higher is a little bit better. You just don't want to go to 7K and start creating similants. You want to go above 7K, right? So here's another frequency you want to cut, like 1K. Why do you want to cut 1K on the vocals? To get rid of that nasally sound, get rid of that nasally sound, that mid-range nasal sound. So where do I want to boost? Maybe 400. And why would you want to boost 400 instead of 1K on the mid-low? Give it a little bit more body. And then finally, the low frequency, 80 hertz or below. Why do I want to cut low in on 80 hertz or below? And that's to get rid of pops. That's why a lot of times we'll even have a high pass filter you hit. I'm going to cut 120 hertz of frequency on the low end, on my low, so I'm not getting this low end rumble, especially if you're using condenser mics, the mics on a boom stand or whatever, and because some singers, they get the moving and all that, and the low vibrations create low end. So you can change the settings on your microphone to do that as well. It's kind of like this microphone. This is unplug it. If I can pull it out. Let's see. Oh, I forgot the tube. It's on the power spot. Anyhow, some microphones, and I'm just going to simulate. Sometimes you go to the microphone and you'll turn in the back and it'll have some settings. Like it'll have like a high pass filter, and it'll have a few other settings, and it'll have like a dB pad to reduce or whatever the case. So you need to set the microphone up as well. So that's why you're doing that. I know that's a long explanation, but that's why you would want to do that. And once you start doing that, not just for vocals, but this kind of breaks down where you want to boost and cut on piano, electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass guitars, string basses, drums, snares. It's a really, really good reference chart. And when I started doing that with EQ, I noticed I started getting more effective clarity mixes because I was setting those frequencies right in those, if that makes sense. So let me see. I'm getting comments coming in left and right. I can't read them because they're popping in left and right. So let me see where I was at on that. Okay, so that's why you do that on the frequencies, if that makes sense. That's why you do that. Man Hour says to RJ to remove the 300 to 700 boxy tones to high pass and low pass, and in the general to curve space out for other instruments. However, you need to boost their frequency. So I'm just reiterating. He's just reiterating what I'm saying. It's you're trying to adjust the frequencies because everything's trying to compete to come out the speakers. So it's kind of like if you have a guitar player and he's playing his guitar part, he's playing his low E string guitar part. He could be doing the low end portion of that will compete with what the bass guitar tones is making. So you don't want them competing. They're competing. The same thing of a bass guitar, because a lot of times the bass guitar follows the rhythm of the kick drum. So the kick drum's going. So the bass guitar, most bass guitar players will follow that rhythm. He'll start hitting the bass, boom, 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 boom. He'll start doing stuff like that to follow the rhythm of the kick drum. But what happens is a lot of that rhythm coming from the bass guitar following him will compete with the kick drum. So you got to adjust the frequencies so they're not competing. That's the whole point of it. So that requires boosting or cutting frequencies, if that makes sense. Let me go to the next one. Bro said, you need multiple SM57s in your kit. I need another for percussion. Okay. Oh, we got Secrete Studios. It's saying Pathfinder been dropping content like Jumpmaster calling sick go on the static lines. Get ready to jump. Some of it, but nothing like a Hollywood load. Keep them. Let me tell you about. I'm gonna talk some Army and Jumpmaster stuff right quick. Okay, for those that don't know, paratroopers in the plane online, they call a stick of jumpers, right? And the Jumpmaster, the Jumpmaster do a few things. First, the Jumpmaster, he's doing a door check. So you come out the door, he's looking out, the plane is moving and the door is up and you can literally see the ground and you're looking. And a lot of times you're looking for the drop zone and how far you're out, right? So you're looking, and sometimes they have these VS-17 panels. They're panels, they're markers on the ground, and you're looking at the ground. And finally, when you're about that 10-minute marker, that's when you're going to prep the jumpers. So a lot of times there's commands. First time you say outboard personnel stand up, and that's telling all the jumpers sitting on the outside seats to stand up. Then you're gonna tell them hook up. Yeah, that means they're gonna take their little static line, which is the line attached to their parachute. They're hooked. There's this anchor line. They're gonna attach to it, and then after that, they're gonna follow down. They're gonna get this bend. It's called a bite. And then they're gonna, after that, and what they're doing is they're looking at the jumper in front of them to help them make sure that their static line is not misrouted, so they don't become a towed jumper, which is that's a very bad thing. That means the jumper, they didn't get a chance. They got hung to the aircraft and it bounced, and it's really it's not a good thing. It can be fatal. So they're helping with the jump. And so the AGs, with the AJs, assistant jump masters, will kind of go down the line and kind of do another check. And then finally, the first jumper, he gets to the first jumper, and after that, he'll say, okay, all okay, jump master. He'll point to the jump master. Okay, we're all good. We're ready to jump. And then after that, you go back out the door, because there's commands. All right, after you say hookups, check static lines, check equipment. So sign off equipment check. And then after that, you would say stand by to tell the first jumper to get ready to get in the door. So after you do your finding your door checks, you do your last 1 minute check. After that, you're at the 1 minute mark. You tell them the safety control my static line. And then after that, you're looking at the door, then you step back. And then after that, there's two lights. There's a red light and a green light. And it'll go red, and they go green. Then there's go. Then they go out the door. And then after the last person on the last person on the stick goes out the door, use the jump master, you go out. Or some jump masters choose to go out first. Or you can go out last. and you're the last one to go out the door. So you go, but anyhow, that's Army Jumpmaster stuff. So that's a little bit of Army stuff, but anyhow, hit likes, hit those likes for bro Mark. I do appreciate that. Thanks for the likes. I really do. So Spawns put salute. There we go. Let me give you my salute. Make sure, you got to touch your glasses, oh yeah, phase canceling and right. Okay. So let me go back to the next one. I got more. That was some Army talk, So anyway, getting back to Man Network says fixed band EQs are fine and generally used because they have a specific character desirable for certain instruments or vocals. Limited but good. And it's the same thing. It's kind of like on like a Neve 1084 or 73 or 1081 or 1082. There's a lot of Neves. A lot of people. The 1073 is the most popular, but those are fixed band EQs, right? But those frequencies are some of the sweet frequency used in a lot of areas. But a 1073 is not always a good choice for everything. It really isn't. It really isn't. So it's kind of like even using. It's kind of like people ask me. I do have some 1176 style compressors. My Clark-Tech and my Lin 76s are they're basically 1176s, just the more affordable ones, right? The ratios are fixed: 4-1, 8-1, 12-1, 16-1, and then all buttons in. Sometimes those ratios aren't always an ideal. So I'm at to go to one of my DBX or my Alesis or other compressors that I can go 3-1 or 5-1. Sometimes 5-1 is a good setting for like on a kick drum, as an example, 5-1 compression. Well, you're not getting 5-1 on that. You might have to use 4-1, but I might need just a little bit of tighter ratio, so I might switch to a different compressor. Just because we hear 1176s and LA2As, those aren't always the go-to compressors. Sometimes a DBX 160 or 166 or another compressor is ideal. So let me see. El Summer said, a cutting low end also adds clarity. That's one of the first things my mentor taught me. Yeah, like I said, the only thing in a low end frequency is kind of like when I used to see mix engineers, and they used to put a lot of stuff through the subs. Let's say you have some, in a live setting, as an example, you have some speakers, and they would have the tweeters, the mid-range, the woofers, and they would have subs. I'm like, why are you putting like flute sounds through a sub? You should high pass filter that. It doesn't need, and that your subs really don't need to go above 150 hertz. Why? You got, but you'll be surprised how many people make those mistakes. When you clean up your EQ and you really know how to use EQ and compression, you'd be amazed how that's 90% of the battle. Because reverbs and delays are not to make your mixes. It's not the holy grail of your mixes. Reverbs are designed to add space. Delays are designed to add space effects. Because really, a reverb and a delay is basically the same thing. It's just how you're hearing it. It's kind of like when you go down a hallway or a big empty room and go, hello, 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 hello. That's a delay, right? In a big empty room, hello, hello, hello. That's a delay because the sound, your voice is bouncing against the sound on it, and you're hearing it bounce back. It's bouncing back again from time it hits your ears to the wall, and you're hearing it numerous times. This is what we call a cycle, right? And certain rooms that have delays have faster cycle times. So a lot of times in a delay unit, that's why you have a tap delay. So you tap the time so you can slow that down. But a reverb, that's a whole different that's a whole different subject as well on that. So okay, let's see. It said you painted a picture from left to right. Okay. Main 250 said, how can I get a copy of that chart? Really, all you got to do to get that is Google Alesis 3630 manual, and you might pull up a PDF manual. It's going to be in the index section in the back of that manual. if you for that. But that's not the only reference. That's just one of many. You can go and there's a lot of EQ reference charts for mixing on Google. Just Google EQ EQ reference charts for recording and Google it and see what charts come up. A lot of times you can even go to, when you do the search, you can go to like maybe select pictures or something like that in Google, whatever, and it'll bring up some pictures of charts and you can print those charts off. But that is probably, I would say that. And also there's a reference charts on how to use compressors. Like what's a good compression setting for like kick drum? What's a good compression setting for vocals? What's a good for guitar? Those are great starting points. And a lot of time, believe it or not, your plugin have presets in them for you to start as well. So if you pull up a plugin in your DAW, and you can go to presets, and I have a list of presets like kick drum, snare drum, toms, drum kit, vocals 1, vocal 2, female vocals, and so forth. Click on one of those presets, and then it'll automatically preset the sound, the settings to that. Those are good starter, and then you just you start making your changes from that preset. Those are also good starting points. Let me see. We got some more stuff coming in. Would you do a beat review live stream? I can. What I'm going to do next time is I'm going to use my OBS Soft Studio to stream, so I can pull up examples instead of just streaming through YouTube by itself, because I can also stream through OBS and through YouTube. So that way I can actually pull up examples and stuff like that. So I can, which I'll try to remember to do that next time, the next live stream. Superman says Mag EQ is another one I love. They do. They actually have a free one called Lufticus you can get it from, it's called 250 free VST plugins. Under the EQ section, it's called Lufticus. It's basically a Mag EQ, even though I got the Mag EQ as well. I got the Mag EQ plugin. So I use it quite a bit, especially for on vocals and piano is one of my number one go-tos. I use the API stuff on like drums because they're so punchy. He's talking about make EQ. I got a rack of them, pricey but amazing. Yep, I have the plugin because Meg, how you want to pronounce it? Meg or Meg? They're expensive. The real ones are expensive. You can get 500 series cheaper. 500 series is all versus the 19-inch racks is probably another well-known secret to getting high-end gear a lot cheaper. Is getting the 500 series. But there have always been debates. Some people debate that if you got the 500 series because all the 500 series are using the same power supply, is diminishing the sound quality some. And I'm like, I don't own 500 series, but I'm going to get some 500 series to see if that's true. I don't think it's true, but some say it's true. Let me see. What's up, Mark? You got the live feed working. Huh? Awesome. Okay. Yeah, it was like I said. It was YouTube kept changing my settings on my microphone, and I had to keep starting and stopping. It was nerve wracking. Okay. Super says that's awesome. I'm jealous. I'm actually looking to buy 500 series chassis, and then Mag EQs 4 is going to be the first one I buy. Might even get the SSL E channel and SS Dynamics. They make a lot of 500 series. A lot of companies make 500 series units. I mean, from Channel Unlimited, Pultec has 500 series. I mean, so many of them. So Sue said the Mag plugins are pretty good too. And Inspire, give me a thumbs up. You're doing a good job. Appreciate that. He said, yeah, I pretty much use the plugins. Pronounced Mog. Oh, Mog. Okay. Gotcha. Mog. It's kind of like, how when you mispronounce stuff for years. Like, I used to think it was Behringer. And it's actually not Behringer or Behringer, it's actually Behringer. Behringer. Simply because he's German. And if you know about German pronunciation, there you go. But we've been saying Behringer, you know, like Jur. And there's like, well, if you look at GER, that's really, you know, that's not how you're supposed to pronounce it. But we've been saying Behringer and it's been wrong. But we've been pronouncing a lot of stuff wrong for years. You know, like schedule, school, when it's really schedule, it's kind of but anyhow, so going for in which way, okay. Hope Star Browning says, in which ways do you think your military career helps or hurts your musical life? I would say you, other than the Army band or doing like the Army show or things like that, you're not going to be like hitting the red carpet and, you know, doing collabs with like Faith Evans. That ain't happening because you're in the military. I'm going to tell you how it helped me. One of the things that it allowed me to do being in the Army was I got to do this thing called the USA Express. And the USA Express, I'm trying to be as fast as possible with this. What it does, you audition. It used to be at Fort Belvoir. You go there and audition. After that, you get accepted. They bring you to Fort Belvoir. You'll practice for about a month or so, all these songs. And after that, you're going to go to different bases and tour and put on these shows. So you get a chance, you get you away from the Army, your normal Army life, and you get to do that. The soldier show is the same thing, except it's a lot longer. It's about 9 or 10 months out of the year. So they'll practice for 3-4 months, and it's like a Broadway musical. But everyone's in the Army. So they get a chance to get away from their unit, go do this soldier show for a while, and then they'll come back and go back to their unit. So it gives a chance to, that's all you're doing. You're just going from base to base, putting on shows. But as far as having that regular musical career, no, you have to eventually give the military up. If you're, no, let's say you are like a lot of, like Mystical was in the military. Ice-T was in the military. You'd be surprised who was in the military, whether it's the Army, the Marines, and they did it for about a few years, then they got out, and then they became celebrities, actors, musicians, or whatever. That's really the only way to really pursue this 100% full time. You just can't. You're not going to be able to serve. But what the Army did do for me was I did 20 some years. I got out, went to the music, I went to, you know, independent record label, blah, 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 blah. Then we started hitting a lot of stuff was happening. Ended up having to go back on the military, going back on active duty. And I ended up finishing out my time, and then I retired. And then I really started concentrating on this production stuff and really building my recording studio. That's how I did it. Long story on the music industry. That's a different video. But I did get a chance to some taste of the music industry. So let me go back to man said, I'm 64 years and just happened upon this channel, and I'm glad. I appreciate you, D. I'm glad you enjoying the channel. I'm here to help. So I'm glad you subscribed and became a subscriber. Appreciate you. API is entirely based off 500 series. They equal to the 19-inch racks. I have never had any problems with any 500 with my 500 stuff. I haven't. See, this is always, the problem with these videos. I tend to think sometimes they're biased. And sometimes some of these people have biased opinions. I'm like, yeah, I get 500 series or whatever. There's a hidden agenda behind sometimes some negative videos. So sometimes you can't always trust what everything that people put out on YouTube. Let me see. Let me just read some more. I'm getting comments coming left and right. So I got Born Shamir. So I got the lunchbox in my rig. Okay, let me see. Hope Star Brown says, what skills do you learn that help you with music and engineering? If I'm gonna say out of anything, consoles, because even if you're working in a live venue, you're not working with a tape machine or DAW. You're using a console. Maybe it could be a live console. It could be a smaller format like a Presonus Live, a Yamaha TF32, a Alesis Q32, Behringer X32, Midas 32, or it could be one of the big flagships like the Allen Heath D Live 7000 or the Digico or console of that magnitude. But they're usually consoles at these shows. So you want to understand how consoles work. The DAW, when you open up any DAW, you start off in your tracking window. That's the tape machine, which is really good, especially for recording and editing. But you still need to know how to work. But anyhow, I'll get to a long drawn out on that when it comes to that. But also key 4 components on top of that: equalizers, compressors, reverbs, and delays, effect units. Also knowing how to pan, understand sound imaging, stereo imaging, with the faders, panning, and compressors, EQs, and stuff like that. That's really going to enhance your skills. Let me read some more stuff. It says all chess are not created. Well, yeah, that's I'm gonna go to some more. Oh, DL says what differentiate. Sometimes these words just get me tongue twisted. Differentiate mixing engineers. Why does one mixer get a Grammy nomination and royalties, and another engineer gets no rewards? And you got to remember, getting Grammys is a voting board, and they have a cheerleader team. There's some things behind the Grammys, but mixing engineers and getting Grammys is fairly new. It's only been around for about maybe 20 some years. Mixing engineer never used to get Grammy mixing. Only the artist and producer was the main ones getting Grammys or American Music Awards or whatever. But mixing engineers used to get Audio Engineering Society awards. But now they do. A lot of times, I think part of why a mixing engineer, one will get a Grammy and the other one don't, is because the artists themselves got a Grammy. And when the artist gets that Grammy, is because they're getting more attention with their song through the charts, through the RIA, meaning they've gotten their gold platinum album or their platinum, and they got an award for that, and their sale charts is off the roof in Billboard. So they're going to get more attention. Versus you can have a person that can make a really good song, but it only got 100,000 copies sold. It ain't that one song even though, let's say Beyonce, we'll go, and I'm picking on Beyonce. Love Beyonce. The problem that I have is, this is my personal opinion, and people are probably going to beat me up for this. I really do not think Texas Hold'em as a country song, and I think maybe because she dabbled in the country world, the country and western world, and because it's Beyonce and whoever the niche of that song. But personally, with all the country and western artists that's been doing this for years, I'll even go back to I'll say White Liar by Miranda Lambert. Miranda Lambert's White Liar is a way better country song than Texas Hold'em. That's my opinion. So I'm saying this because Texas Hold'em is, this ain't Texas. Ain't no Hold'em. I'm just lay your cards down, right? I'm like, compared to I listen to a Kenny Chesney's, or I go back and listen to an Alan Jackson song, or I go back and listen to Trisha Yearwood or a Martina McBride song. Those artists, that's their Beyonce's an art, anyhow. I'm not picking, like I said, I'm not picking on Beyonce, but I just think it's not that great. It's a niche song, kind of like, well, yeah, let me move on because I'm probably gonna make some people mad. So let me go back to what I was reading. When you're working in the studio, let me go to let me see. He's writing something to DL. Says RJJ, when you're working in the studio in the 90s, did you end up mastering as well? Is it easy for mix engineer or master? They claim mastering is the secret. Okay. I never mastered. I barely can mix. When I was working in the studio in the 90s, I was creating. I was track building. But every now and then, one of the two producers I was working with, we had one guy named Grover Chambliss, who I just got off the phone with. He's the one that owned the studio. He was doing most of the mixing because he had way more experience at it than I did. We had another guy named Robert Wells, but Robert Wells was mainly like me. Robert's the guitar player, and he played a lot of the guitar parts. But Grover is the one that did most of the contrary mixing. I didn't know what I was doing, but sometimes they had alternative jobs. Like Grover was also a postmaster for the post office. We all had to have second jobs, right? So I had, anyhow, I was in the reserves. I was working in the studio and blah, 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 blah. So to make a long story short, I didn't learn about mastering until later on. I didn't even learn about mixing until later on. So I had to experiment with mixing on my own. And a lot of times Grover wouldn't be there. So I would have to do it on my own. So I was very bad at EQing and bad at using compressors. I just got to the point where I said I would make adjustments till it sounded better. And as I learned, and then I finally started taking some classes, I'm like, oh, I was making those mistakes. Oh, that's where I was making mistakes. If that answers your question. So the long answer to a short is basically no. In the 90s, no. I didn't start getting better at it until the 2000s, if that makes sense. Okay. Let me go to Hope Star Brown. Says, thanks so much for your great answers. Much love and thanks for the knowledge. Oh, appreciate it. Thanks. Okay. Wow, he says that's correct. Now I'm going to say, okay, let me go. Yep. Let me see. Oh, sorry. I guess somebody was asking about something about Sweetwater. Let me move on. Yep. Okay. Oh, word. Thanks, man. Let me see. Okay. Oh, man. I said Grammys are extremely political, and I told you there's. I gotta do a video. I never talk about this, but I don't talk about the industry, Billboard, RIAA, Grammys, American Music Awards, MTV Awards, BT Awards, and all this stuff. Because we love to talk about the studio and the gear, but really the end goal, the studio is really the factory. That's just where everything's made. A lot of people want to get here and do their music, so they want to make this into careers. Well, that's getting into the industry. And then a lot of people realize the industry is a dirty bit. It's like Hollywood. It's crazy. So, let me see, man. Too much of a loudmouth to ever get a Grammy. I got tons of awards, but never have a Grammy. I don't have a Grammy either. Actually, I do. I got a fake one. I got a Grammy. Y'all want to see my Grammy? I got a Grammy. It's a fake one. Yeah, I got a Grammy. Here's my Grammy. No, let me stop. That's not a real Grammy. I got that as a motivator to maybe one day I might get a Grammy. But if I got a BET award, I would be just as grateful. Or if I got an American Music Award, I'd be just as grateful. Or an MTV award, or an NAACP award, or any of those type of award shows that give you an award. I'd be grateful. I got plenty of military awards. I got some other awards that I got from separate contests that I got. These awards, because it's not the Grammy, doesn't mean that these awards that I got up here, like this award, I got second place for doing a talent show on Post. They gave me this award, and it says right here, you can see right here, it says, if you can look at that, I don't know if you can read that. And it says, I'll read it. It says, from the Dale Warren Community Rec Center Talent Contest, and this is on 19 February 2006. Second place vocal instrumental, Mark Underwood. It's not a Grammy, but it has the exact same impact meaning because I won this award for doing that talent contest. And all I did was bring my keyboards. I did a song called Outstanding, and I was playing live and all that, and I got an award. So there you go. So just because you don't have a Grammy, it's the same thing with why Jada and it just, it's the same thing with Jada and Will making a big deal about the Oscars. So if you don't have an Oscar, if you got a BT Image Award, that's all that matters. If people recognize you, it doesn't have to be the Oscar or the Grammys. It could be, if I got an MTV award, I'd be happy to display that. Just like my other awards I got up there. So I think we get so caught up with Grammys that we lose focus, that we think the other awards aren't important. So, okay, man, that Texas song was crap personally, but I like her work. He's talking about when I went back to talking about Beyonce, and I'm gonna tell you why. To me, because it's like there's a little bit of drums, there's some guitar, and all that, and it's like she's more, this ain't Texas. You hold them, put your card down, and woo, and all that. Then there's not all the elements that make country music sound like country music, like the musicians. Nashville, and I'll talk about Nashville for a second. Nashville and the country music scene is what it is because of not just the artists, but because of the class of musicians that they bring in to do those session works in those recording sessions for those artists. I'm talking about Miranda Lambert. I'm talking about Carrie Underwood. We're talking Taylor Swift and beyond, Kenny Chesney, and just beyond. There's thousands of excellent drummers, guitar players, bass players, piano players, organ players, and the music that they do when they do the Nashville chart system and they record and how they did the music. That's what makes it that, not just because you can try to dabble at it and think that you're going to, but I think it's because of Beyonce's popularity and she tried to dabble to try to dabble across in the country because of her, because she's so well known and popular. And it's a recognizable because of the guitar, and all that. It's because of her popularity. The song is not a good, people could, like I said, people are going to get mad because there may be a hardcore Beyonce lover. I'm not a hardcore Beyonce lover. I think she makes good music. I think when she made like Crazy in Love and Naughty Girl, and when she was those songs, that's Beyonce. But Martina McBride, Carrie Underwood, Alan Jack, those are country singers. It's kind of like me. I'm an R&B musician. I'm a gospel, R&B, jazz, pop musician. I can play country licks, but I would prefer, if I was to bring a country western, I was going to do a country western session in here, I prefer to bring a pro keyboard player. I've been playing 42 years. Not saying his skill, my skill level is less than his, but there are certain artists that are just better in certain genres than others. It's kind of like, this is the reason why you hire certain musicians that are really good at certain genres of music, even though it's kind of like I forget his name. He's plays bass. He was the director for American Idol. Baldhead guy, I can't remember his name. Phenomenal bass player. But there were certain tracks. There's certain tracks that he was, that he hired Nathan East. Brought in Nathan East to play certain things, even though they're equal in bass players. And it's kind of like certain things you're going to bring in Marcus Miller to play bass lines. There's certain things that you're going to bring in Nathan East. And then there's going to be certain things you're going to bring in Victor Wooten. Or there's certain things they're going to bring in Stanley Clark. Same thing with guitar players. I'm certain things I'm going to bring in Norman Brown, jazz guitarist, or I might bring in George Benson. That may be Eric Clapton. It's kind of like, if I want a jazz lick, I'm not going to hire, rest in peace, Eddie Van Halen to do jazz stuff, even though he can do jazz stuff. I'm going to bring in George Benson. George Benson's been doing the jazz. So that's how I feel about it. So let me go back to some more stuff because, oh man, I saw Martina McBride a few days ago. If you go to Blackbird, Blackbird, John McBride, she's always rooted there because John McBride, her husband, owns Blackbird. And so naturally, if you're a Blackbird, you'll see, you're liable to run into Martina. Let me see. Mastering is different than engineering. Yes, mastering. And they use quite a few tools, but their biggest three tools is limiting, EQ, and compression. But mastering, the art of it is they're trying to mastering is fixing and stabilizing issues that may occur throughout the entire mix of the song. So, there might be certain volume imbalances, certain dynamics, certain peaks. So mastering is designed to fix that with EQ or compression or limiting or whatever. So that's mastering in a nutshell. But mastering also is a polisher. That's what, whenever you're listening to 99% of music, especially the way it was done, you're listening to a master copy. You're not listening to just the mix copy. It still has to be mastered. So a lot of times when you're referencing stuff, the mix can sound a little different than the master. A lot of times when you want to reference mixed tracks, it's hard to really listen to a lot of tracks that were mixed because they don't put out the mixed tracks. They put out the master copy. Let me see. Let me see what else. Master makes your mix full. And I mean, master is the polisher. So let me see. Martin Morrison says, what type of classes do you take for mixing? Thanks for awesome videos. For mixing, I would say this. I first need to understand the basics first. EQ, compression, reverbs, and delays, stuff like that. And gain staging, balancing, panning, all the basics first. Then mixing is really applying tools to make the recording better. Like, should I add a delay to, should I add a ping pong delay to this guitar at the verse? No, that doesn't work. Maybe I should have added that to the chorus. Or should I, there's a shaker that may be needed that wasn't put in. A shaker would kind of go, or even though I hear the drummer and I don't still don't like the way the snare sounds. So I'm going to add a little drum snare sample on top of that. So I'll go back and I'll add, the drums might do cat. So I'm gonna come back and add this on top of that on another channel, blend the two to give that snare a little bit more pop. That's mixing. As an engineer, you have to think like that if it's going to help the record. Sometimes some mixing engineers can hurt the record. Sometimes in mixing it, I make decisions. This guy got 25,000 tracks simply because he could. And it ain't even about EQ and space. Now it's just muddy. No matter, you don't need that. You don't need that. That one little sample line that came for 2 bars at the second verse, you don't need that because you're not gonna hear it anyway. You don't need that. Let me cut. Now I've cut 250 tracks down to like 60. Oh, now I can kind of distinguish what I'm listening to. That's mixing, if that makes sense. So let me see. Because I got stuff coming in. I never taken class for mixing. I learned on the job. These days, you can learn entirely online. YouTube University. So as long as you recognize your work. Let me see. Maze has never won a Grammy, but it's still a great band. Rest in peace to Frankie Beverly. We just lost a pioneer. I don't know anyone in the industry that had his same vocal style. There's always been some artist that could sound like another artist, but I've never heard anyone that sounded like Frankie Beverly. I am a, like Silky Soul Singer and Running Away. I mean, all the Maze classics. I mean, that was my band because they were so smooth. They weren't doing what Earth, Wind and Fire was doing, or Cameo or Confunction. Those bands, Maze had a different type of groove, especially That's the Time of Day. They were to me, advanced. Had advanced, it's almost like with Al Green having his style. Maze had this style that just sit back, man. That was one of those, I can sit back, you can relax. If you're a drinker, I'm not a drinker. Get your drink, it's that Sunday afternoon, I'm going to wash my car, relax type of band. It was. So I ain't got on Maze. Let me see, go back to, he said, more it's so vast, it's kind of hard to decide who's really teaching useful content. I did YouTube, but it's hard. It's time to slow down and learn fundamental information, why and when to use tools. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. That's really what I'm trying to do on this channel. When to use these tools, because I noticed that too. I'm trying to bring it in a more practical sense with my channel. So he said, Marvin, Nashville engineers have polished sound second to it's because one thing about Nashville, other than not taking away from Los Angeles or Detroit or remember these other big time studios like Capitol Studios and like that, not only were dealing with all these tons of different genres, they're also dealing with live orchestras. Like Al Smith was a live orchestra recording king, Al Smith. Now but some of these guys, you got one studio that they just got finished doing a session with Coldplay. Then you got another in the other room, they got Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg in another room. Then they got Nelly in another room, but then the other room they got Adele. They would have so many different. But Nashville, 90% of the musicians going to those recording studios in Nashville are primarily country and western or blues, for the most part. You will still have artists like Beyonce and Mariah Carey and you will still have like Mary J. Blige go to Nashville, but most of them would still concentrate on the LA or New York or like Criteria Studios in Miami, or go to Detroit or maybe even Chicago to those studios. Sometimes these artists, they may want to go to East West, like Beyonce or Mariah Carey might want to book. I'm hitting the mic. They may want to book East West, but East West is booked. So now it's like, well, let me check out. I'm gonna have, so who's open? It could be, I'm just gonna make up a name, Platinum Recording Studios out of Nashville. They're open. They don't have any artists booked. So Mariah Carey will book that, especially the producers. And then they're like, oh yeah, what do they got? What equipment they got? Oh yeah, they got a Neve console. Yeah, they got LA2As and distressors and LA and 1176s and they got a Neve in there and the Michael Locker. Yeah, oh yeah, they got Newman U87s and a C8. They got 800G. Yeah, oh yeah, we'll book them. So that's it's kind of like that. Thanks for the info. I feel like a lot of mixers are stream busy. You got to be careful with that. Okay. Oh, Andre, welcome, Andre. He's all the way from Barbados. Welcome, Andre. Mixing is understanding what needs to be done and apply techniques accordingly. That's right. That's all it is. That's all it is. Great answer. Joe, welcome, Joe. I'm just now seeing Mark. Out of subject. Are you using the Alesis BRC with ADAT or trying to use it as a DAW controller? I use it for my ADATs, my actual physical ADAT machines. I got, some ADAT XTs, but I also got a 24 channel hard disk recorder, a Alesis 24 channel hard disk recorder. I use it to control it as well, but it's a little flaky with that 24 hard disk recorder, but I mainly for the ADATs. That's what I use it for. I don't use it. I use this fader port right here. My fader port, you can barely see it. This fader port is my DAW controller, but most of my controls are on the actual physical, on my M-Audio control for my PC, and this was controlling all on my Logic or my Mac. So I use the controls on those because it's right there. It's easy for me just to turn around and use it that way, and I can make fader changes and all that on the MIDI controllers. A MIDI controller to me is it's a 2-in-1 because it's an instrument controller and a DAW controller. It's more ideal than just DAW controllers by themselves, if that makes sense. But sometimes DAW controllers have more functions. It just goes on. Let me see. Let me go. No, if this channel was somebody, I wouldn't be here. Keeping it 100. I went to school for this. Oh, thanks. I guess that must be respond to some earlier stuff. So, but I appreciate it when let's see. Martin said, "Love your channel, man. Seriously, the community here is very encouraging." I got some good subscribers. I really do. I really do have some really good subscribers because I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I try to keep a more realistic approach to this because most of these channels, they got a hidden agenda. Most of them, they're sponsored. They're trying to make money. This next subject is sponsored by Dr. Pepper. You already know that. That's why I say, if you buy a piece of gear, make sure you buy it through the link through my. You get where I'm going with that. And I don't have nothing wrong with people in their hustle to make their money, but I'm like, when you're like that, that tells me you're going to be a little more. You're going to be kind of product biased, and I'm realistic. I'm more realistic. It's kind of like this. I'll use two examples. You take a Universal Audio 1176 compressor, or I can take my Lin Del Audio 76 compressor in the rack here. I can run signal through both of those. What do you think the difference in the compression is going to be as far as the sound? It's going to be so minimal, and you're going to be like, I can't really hear the difference. I'm like this with any product that you buy. I don't care what it is, audio interface, compressor, EQ, I don't care what it is, reverb. If it's so minimal of a difference that you can barely tell, you're not going to hear it in a mix. You're not. It's too much stuff going on in the song to be able to decipher a clone LA2A or even a plug-in or the actual thing when you got drums going, you got cymbals, you got snares going, you got toms, you got all these weird synth sounds panning to the left and to the right, guitars going, you got bass going, keyboards, horns, you got background vocals, you got lead vocals. Then you got all these processing on all these other channels, more than just that 11176. You got multiple channels, and some people got some sort of like SVOX plug-in, or they got a doubler going on this channel. They got this effect process. They got a hall reverb over here. They got it on your master bus. They got the SSL bus compressor. I mean, you get my point. It's so much going on. You're not going to hear, unless it's just a really, really crappy compressor. Then yeah, you might, because it might be choking the crap out of that snare. you can't get that snare sound to come through in the mix because the compressor you use is choking it, then yeah, that's where, so, Nino America said great content. I'll say, let me move on to some more. I say, I just got the BAE 73 MP and want to sell all my other files. Well, you got to remember the BAE's 1073 is basically a Neve 1073. So it sounds that good. So I can see why you would like it. And let me see. Oh man, his comment. I have I used the BA's 1073 preamp, great preamps, and a great DI. Excellent on bass guitar. I use mostly Neve branded preamps these days, but BA is great too. Well, you remember saying this. There's Neve, then there's everything else. It's kind of like for people that was in the military. It's kind of like there's the what's the word I'm looking for? There is the infantry, then there's everyone else that support it, which, every other MOS, it's kind of like with the Air Force. There's pilots, then there's everyone else, which, that's going to piss all other Air Force people off because you need pilots can't do anything without all the other job skills. The infantry can't do nothing else without the other job skills. You got to eat, you need food, you need supply, you need truck drivers to bring the food. There's a whole factor to it. So, but anyhow, people probably think I'm crazy with my analogies, but so he's talking about the Neve 73. Like I said, I have the Altrons. Don't cost nowhere near as the BAs and Neve, but they sound just as good. I have 3 of them. So, Martin Morrison, do you have an Instagram or Facebook? I do. I'm not on Facebook very much. I'm not on Instagram very much or Twitter. I need to get Twitter, but I'm not on it very much or Instagram. I probably will look into that. I am on Facebook, but I don't give that Facebook very much. I usually try to get people to catch me here on my YouTube channel. Okay, let me see, man. So it's a support system. Exactly. So to sum up everything that we were talking about in this whole video today about gear, really, I like to think about all the gear in a studio like a car. I don't know if we got any mechanics out there. If you're a mechanic type, if you know about cars and engines, especially performance, post in the chat. My thought process on this on is kind of like this. You can take a car, an engine, and all they go is just get the camshaft. There is other components. The engine's not going to see a lot of benefit from just the cam alone. It even boils down to the push rods, the choice of rocker arms, the cylinder heads and how they flow, the intake manifold, how it flows, if it's fuel injection, the throttle body, the size of the fuel injectors, the exhaust manifolds or the headers. 1 5/8 versus 1 7/8 make a difference in exhaust flow and everything else. So in your studio, it's more than just thinking about the console or the preamps in the console. It's also a factor of the EQ on the console or external preamps. It's a concept of what microphones, even down to even the cabling. Little things that's overthought, like cabling and grounding, acoustics in the room. What else? Choices of outboard gear, even how comfortable you are working in your DAW, and so forth. And on top of that, that's just what we're gonna do on the front end, and then the mixing portion, the choices of compressors I'm going to use, and the choices of reverbs, and the choices of delays, and the choices of things like that. all these factors, even down to something that's never talked about. It's talked about sometime. Studio monitors, because you got to hear what you're doing, right? Microphones, because you got to capture the source. Preamps, because you got to, you want the color, you want that flavor of that preamp. I like, for example, my favorite vocal preamp, and this is also one of Joe Correll's from Church Isle's favorite preamp, is the Avalon. I have the 737 on this. I have two of them. I got one right there and one, so right now I got stuff moved because I'm two cables. So the choice of monitors, and believe it or not, it's kind of like problems within the room. Your sound pressures or the room noise. Do you have all these problems with frequencies in the room? Acoustics, psychoacoustics, diffusion. Most of the time when we buy monitors, we buy near fields. I see someone wrote mid fields and far fields. A lot of times you'll see some of these recording studios, you'll see far fields like Osberger's or PMC audio or PMCs, or Dyn Audio or whatever. Westlake or Oceanway even has far field, the big ones. And that's another good video to talk about when should I be listening to my near fields, my mid fields, and when should I be listening to my far fields. And for, that's another video. So let me see. I got a few more things and I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up because it's going on 1 hour and 41 minutes. Okay. Let's see you guys if you can get a console. Okay. Oh yeah, I love consoles. A lot of people don't want to do a console because they just don't want to deal with trying to set up the AC and the HVAC. Newer consoles there's people that are redoing the power supplies of consoles where they don't need to draw so much heat and you can actually turn the power supplies off. But most of the old SSLs and these and all that, you left them 24/7, which was what was killing your light bill, because you ran HVAC and the heat. The heat those consoles, that's what was frying the capacitors. That's what the consoles had to be. Those consoles had to be recapped. That's a whole different video too on the pros and cons of a console. Let me see. RJ, should a person buy a 8 or 10K used car from a dealer, or was it better to buy from a private seller nowadays? On that, I don't know, because you don't know what you're getting from both. You don't know how well that private seller maintained a car, or you don't know if that dealer got that car from a dealer and they just trying to hide stuff because they bought it from an auction, and now they're trying to mask some problems they realized they had. They masked some issues. A good master mechanic will find problems either or. Personally, if I had 8 to 10K, I would actually personally look to buy a car from personal friends that maybe, or friends or associates that that you kind of know the history of that car. And let's say let's say they have let's say they've been driving this F-150 and it's got 150,000 miles and they wanted to get rid of it. And you saw them drive that truck and you knew, when they took it to the shop or when they got oil changes or whatever. And now they want to say, well, I got another one. I just want to get rid of this. And you're like, how much I'm selling it for? 5,000. But let's say it still needs a little maintenance work on it, maybe some brakes or whatever. I'm more likely to buy it from them than an unknown, because you just don't know what you're getting. It's 50-50 with that. So, that's all I can say on that. See, man, Spawn 6 foot, not a young guy trying to learn as much as I can. So let me see what else. It's like cooking food. Each piece of gear adds flavor, but each project don't need every flavor. That's a good analogy. Just because you have it don't mean you need to use it. It's, it's like my camera choices. Just because I got a 50 nifty 50 or 35 to 105, or I got a 70 to 200 or whatever lens, just because I got the 70 to 200 lens doesn't mean I need to always use the 70 to 200 lens. I might need to use my nifty 50, or I might need to use a 35 millimeter to capture what I'm trying to catch when I'm taking a photo. A good analogy. So let me see. In promise, let me read last. And the cables, used gear is okay. You know, like I said, with used gear, that's how I got a lot of my stuff. A lot of my stuff is used gear. I intend to avoid the used car question, lots. That's a 2-hour discussion. I try to make it the best I can, because if you don't know what you're looking for, you don't know what you're getting. But if you know what you're looking for, you know what you're getting, because you know what to look for. Like me, I know what to look for when it comes to cars, you know, because I've been a mechanic for so many years. Oh, let me see. Super said, man, I love your recent video of the patch wiring in your studio. It really helped me, because I just had to rewire the commercial studio I work at, and the stress was being able to have options. Yeah. I'll try to end a video on that, and patch bays. I'll try to patch bays. I'll say it like this, because I'm doing stuff in my patch right now. I have the only reason why my cabling looks the way it does, because this is the house. And to make it right, you talking about cutting holes in walls and stuff like that. And I can't afford, if I were to leave this house and sell this house, I can't, you know, I have my reasons why. Patch bays can be a tedious process out of the whole thing in the studio. But once it's up, it makes life so much easier, because you're attaching to every physical input and output in the entire studio, if that makes sense. It's in the same spot, whether you're tying your vocal booth in this room, or your drum booth in that room, or you want to tie. And a lot of times they would have multiple control rooms can tie into other parts of the studio to use it. Sometimes they don't always have the sight line. Sometimes they have to use cameras to see what's going on within those areas, but they do this. It's called tie lines. They tie everything together. But the patch bay, rewiring it, it's kind of like, it's even with this console, 48 channels, you're already looking at ×4 per channel. Now you do the math, and that's already 48, 90, 192 points. And that's not even talking about the master section of either inputs and outputs. We're talking 48 mic inputs, 48 line inputs, 48 inserts, and 48 direct outs. That's a lot of cables to always have to go behind the console. Now, lucky I can access behind the console, but if this was in if I had this built into a desk and I had a panel and all my cables and all that, who's opening it all the time? That's so the patch bay is to make your life a whole lot easier. It can be so tedious getting everything to that patch bay, but once you got everything to that patch bay, woo, let me tell you, it makes life so easier to do all this rack gear. Life is so much easier with the rack gear, because all I gotta do is go to patch bay. Oh well, let me find my 73 or whatever, and where do I want to patch it to? Well, I want to patch it to this auxiliary, you know, or I want to patch it to, you know, there. I know where it's at. Oh, bam, cable to cable, done. You just boop boop. Sometimes patching in gear is faster than trying to go through your list of plugins and trying to find a plugin you want to use. People think that's funny. Some people might think I can pick up. No, a lot of times you have a whole list of plugins. You got to go down the whole list of plugins to find out. I can patch in my gear faster than you can find a plugin. So, anyhow, let me see. Oh, sponsor, look at you, got a powerhouse over it. I love it because it can get a little out of control, but I love working this way. It's just, I'm in heaven in this room. To me, I'm in heaven in this room. So let me see. RJJ patch bays are great. You can custom, how you want it. It doesn't have to be top outs and bottom ends. You can do your patch bay any way you want with the tops. It just, to me, tops, your outs at the top and your ends at the bottom, it just makes, because I keep that in my mind mentally. I just know that every out is at the top, so I don't have to rethink it. That's just me. This is the reason why most studios set up their stuff that way. But you can also, some gear, the out from one piece of gear could be on another patch bay row. So it just depends on how you set your patch bay up. Most people use what they call the Bantam, or they look like the telephone, the real thin, versus the cheap ones like I got, like the little Behringer. Those are the cheaper ones, and I got the Nutrix or Nortrix. I want more Nortrix, but some stuff is expensive. A really good patch bay can cost as much as a technology style. So, dude, we got new insurance at my Nashville studio recently, and the cost of the cables alone was insane. I got 40 grand in just cable. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Cabling, especially high quality cabling, it can be so expensive. I made a video a long time ago about, is it worth opening up or building a commercial studio? And I talk about stuff like this. The cost of the cables, the cost of the gear, staff. I mean, in the end, for that type of environment, for the clients that you get, it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. If for that type of studio and what it does, it's worth it. It's costly, but it's worth it. Let me see what else. A few more, and I gotta shut it down. Let me see. Oh Lord, yes, including different preamps, mic pre's, MPC keyboards. I mean the list. Yeah, I mean gear, the whole 9 yards, including the building, to even room within the room, floating rooms. I mean, it can get astronomical. That's why, I was watching an interview with John McBride and forget his name. He runs Sputnik Studios in Nashville. They were talking about, if your budget is 1 million, add another 2 million to, it's so much extra cost. Even in a small sub, you realize you're like, man, I didn't count for the cost of that. It can add up. So let me see. He's talking about, we got Nutrix and Samson. Samson has patch. Yeah, those are good. Samson, that's a good one. Yeah. Samson has patch is the best affordable patch out there. I tell home studio people to get it all the time. Yeah, Samson is really good. Don't do like I did with the Behringers, but no, my Behringers work, but they're cheap. Let's see what else. But see, that's why why they made a doll. But dolls require no patching. Okay. Let me see. Last thing, I can't wait to the next live chat. Yeah, because I'm about to shut it down. It is 1 hour and 52 minutes. I really do glad y'all was patient with me. I was supposed to start this at 8 o'clock. I was supposed to start this at 8 o'clock and be done by 10. And it just ran over and over and over. Super 8 is asking one more last question about Spitif for ADAT light pipe. Spitif is usually, you only get 2 channels out of Spitif. ADAT can get 8 channels out of ADAT light pipe. Spitif is what it stands for. Sony and Pioneer, digital interface, something like that. So Spitif is good for if you want to do like a digital 2-channel input or output, but it's like a 2-channel system. If you're trying to multi-track or get multiple channels, ADAT does 8 channels at a time. So that's why you want to do ADAT. If you want to put 2 interfaces together, for an example, you can chain them together with ADAT light pipe. They look like fiber optic cables called ADAT light pipe. So if you have 8 channels, you get another 8 channel. You can get 16 channels that way. So that's going to do it. Marks, I will be here to support. Thank you. I appreciate you, Spawn. Thanks, Joe. Man Network, always. Joe, Super Hayes. Everyone comes in. Man Network. MM Main 257. Stick with the channel, man. I'm glad you joined. I'm here to teach. There's a lot of people out here to teach you. We're here. RJJ, thanks for tuning in. Andre from all the way out of Barbados. I did say that right, Barbados. Yeah, Barbados. He's come all the way from Barbados, and Martin and everyone at DL and everyone that tuned in. I really appreciate y'all all tuning in, and I hope I didn't forget nobody. Born Shamir was here earlier. Some people have to leave, but I really do appreciate everyone. Yes, Sony Philip Digital Interface. That's what I thought it stood for. I really tuned in, like I said, I was having some audio issues, but everyone said the audio's fine. So I'm glad everyone said the audio's fine. So we'll do the next live stream again next week. And I really appreciate everyone, and hope I answered everyone's questions. And that's what this channel is about. All right. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Much love to all of y'all. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great night.